create variety in video games, and how do we make the game feel bigger? I've been developing my new indie game for a while, and I think I've found the answer. And it would seem that it is through enemy and level diversity. So I have a project that is entirely level based, and it is segmented by a few different chapters. So there's 6 in total in the game. What I wanted to do was, in each of these chapters, introduce new gameplay concepts as well as different aesthetics to the levels. So this first chapter, it's subdivided into 10 levels. The first couple levels introduce you to the core mechanics of the game gradually. In this game, the hook is you have to kill enemies to regenerate your health, and the objective of each level is getting from point A to point B. So in the first set of levels, there's a few different enemy types. The standard enemy is this flying angel that shoots projectiles at you. Next, there's a slightly stronger version of this, which is grounded. And then there's the strongest version of this, which is on a horse mount. All 3 of these enemies are essentially functioning as the same type when we're talking about diversity. So after the first few levels, we introduce a new enemy type, which is this flying griffin. And this builds on another one of the core concepts of the game, which is movement. So when you kill this griffin, it gives you a strong vertical boost, and you use it to cross gaps or gain a lot of height rapidly. This opens up a lot more verticality when designing levels. We can use these griffins to get the player into new spaces without killing movement. Thus far, we only have 2 enemy types, really. The basic enemy, with a few different versions, and this griffin enemy. How do we get the most out of the enemies that we created so far, and make our game feel more diverse? Well, it's fundamentally a shooter game. Well, if we look at other shooters like Halo and Call of Duty, they don't necessarily change the enemies so much as they change the environments and scenarios that you're fighting them in. And that's why in this first chapter, we introduce 2 environmental actors. One is the water slide, and the second is the exploding lantern. The water slide is a movement boost, and it's largely being used to get the player from one combat encounter to the next. It allows for a greater segmentation of the combat encounters, and we can do a lot more with the environmental level design without being limited to the spaces being so close together. And with the exploding lantern, we can group enemies together in greater numbers without killing the momentum of going from point A to point B, because all you have to do is shoot the lantern and it will spawn a bunch of seeking projectiles. And these are great because they'll kill the enemies without you having to shoot each one of them individually. When we move into the second chapter of the game, I introduce this sniper enemy type. If you get hit by the sniper's arrow, then your maximum health is decreased to half for 5 seconds. Implementing this enemy allows us to create more tension in the level design. We can diversify the play area to create different scenarios with these new enemy types. If the level's wide open, then you're engaging in a kind of sniper to sniper battle. And if the level area is very tight, then you have to rely on quick reaction and parry all the enemy's attacks. I wanted each level to stand out and look different from the rest and signal that you're in a new chapter. So I changed the color theming and also the theming of the architecture. I created blueprint sets for each chapter where I could build these complex structures and kind of use them throughout the chapter. This way I could ensure a lot of diversity from level to level, but still have pretty complex structures and nice aesthetic locations in each of the levels. Chapter 3, I build on the mechanic of the explosive lantern. The enemies shoot their own version of that, which is like an orb projectile that you can shoot and cause multiple little homing projectiles to spawn, just like the explosive lantern. So it creates these fun scenarios where there's a group of enemies, they shoot a bunch of these orbs, then you shoot those orbs, and it creates this kind of chain reaction that ends up with all of them being killed just from one, well-placed shot. Chapter 4, I build on the parrying mechanic by implementing these laser type of enemies. I took some inspiration from the Halo games, so I based their attack kind of like the Spartan laser, which it pinpoints you and it kind of tracks you and then builds and eventually fires a burst, which you'll have to parry or it'll insta-kill you. But if you parry it, then you get all of your resources back, so your magic and your health. Some more interesting enemies in the later levels of the game include these sword-wielding enemies that shoot really fast projectiles at you, which you can parry and send back and get insta-kills on them. There's another enemy type that puts a death curse on you, so if you don't kill her within the 5 seconds that you get cursed, then you instantly die. It allows us to greater diversify the level design by creating these little micro challenges that you have to do within the 5 seconds that you have until you die. So maybe you have to kill that enemy in a difficult platforming section, or they're behind a certain group of enemies and you have to get a nice precision shot on them to take them out. So we're constantly doing this dance of creating new enemies and their new behaviors, and then creating interesting scenarios with the level design for those different enemies, and it creates a lot of variety as you go throughout the game. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm thinking of different interesting enemy types and behaviors to put in the game and building on those different concepts to have fun level design that supports those different challenges. So do me a favor, wishlist on Steam, and keep your eye out for more news on my upcoming game, Deathlust.